I met JR and Cambria and Mark and Leonie all at the first immersion that I hosted in Hawaii, on the Big Island of Hawaii, with Kumu Ramsey Tom, Chief Marvin Swallow, and Hiroko Matsuda. It was called the Living Prayer of Aloha. So they all came to the immersion, and it was very powerful, and it changed their life. And I was just the weaver of that experience. That's part of my role. My responsibility is a weaver. So I knew Kumu, I knew Marvin, I knew Hiroko. Well, like, let's come together, you know? So that's what we did. So I met all of them there, and they had such a good time, they came to the next one too, called Makali'i Rising, which was in the Makahiki season, where Makali'i, where the Pleiades rise, is what shows how that season enters. The little eyes, Makali'i. So that was how I connected with them as they came to some of the immersions. And Cambria then experienced one of my offerings called Project Tipping Point, which is through my organization Rebiz. And in that project, I'm weaving together the kinship worldview and the grief and all these intersectional things with worldview and language and brand activism and regenerative systems and all of these things together so that people can be allotted with the skill set and courage to do something important in their life. Real work, not toil, you know. Work rooted in aloha, work rooted in kinship, work rooted in purpose. And Cambria was like, whoa, that was strong. That's really cool. And we've gathered close to 500 people from 65 countries now in Project Tipping Point. And she's like, that's really cool. You're doing that work with people all over the world and you're hosting these immersions. You're a really good example of how these things can be put into practice in action. So that's why she asked me to come speak here, and JR was stoked about it. And now I'm here. And I spoke today about the multi-dimensional systems and how we can create from the level of spirit and aloha and have that ripple up to the physical realm to create truly regenerative organizations, and organizations with culture, you know. And I don't mean culture like a yogurt. I mean culture like the root word kolere, which means to till. Because real culture comes from the land. So when organizations say they have a culture and they don't have a connection with the land, that's a false claim. They have a culture like a yogurt, you know. They don't like when I say that though. I'm like, oh, it's a really cool organizational culture. What kind of yogurt you got? So that's how I ended up here. And yeah, my work is a weaver, my work is an integrator, my work is a contextual bridge between the Western eye, the Western intelligences and ways of knowing. And Kumu says, be careful because we're on a sphere, so there's always someone more West than you. But also the indigenous or the original people's intelligences and ways of knowing. So how do we integrate those into a knowledge systems interface where each one can stand strongly and not be diluted, but honored and respected and translated? But the issue with translation is that in a noun-based language like English, with a verb-based language like most indigenous languages, there's not a direct translation. So it has to be a way of knowing. And that's why the ways of knowing or the epistemologies are really important for people to drop into. So this is just some of the stuff that I share with people, and then I bring them into the experiences, which is what the immersions are for, because there's only so much you can learn online. But then you have to come in person and you feel it, you get the transmissions, you get the energy of the sacred sites and the places, you get the in India they call it the Shakti Pat, the transmission of the energy. And that is really what's changing, because change doesn't happen through our thoughts alone. Change happens through our embodied actions. So when we shift from an embodied level, then we act differently. If we shift from a conceptual level, then we think differently, and that's a lot different. So, and there's a lot of differences that make a difference, and that's one of them.
I have one more question, and then you can also add anything you want to share. So can you speak about, I know it's your first Spirit Fest, but mention that. And then what are some of the things that you have appreciated the most about Spirit Fest? What have you witnessed that you feel is important, maybe for continuing this organization, for gathering maybe these types of people or the speakers that end up being here? And you could also add, what do you think could be added to it to enhance it even more? Yeah, like what are the things you think are the most important for people?
I love the name. First and foremost. The name Spirit Fest is really beautiful. And the energy of it is all rooted in spirit, which is really cool. So the way that it's set up, I really appreciate. I like how the Tibetan monks are here. That really adds something. That they're working in a different place physically than the conference, but they're simultaneously, we're working together. This is that quantum entanglement type of thing. My experience thus far has been really beautiful. The diversity of the speakers and the diversity of the generations that are also being represented is really powerful. So I think they're doing a really good job representing the holism that's required in these approaches that we are in the world. The elders aren't going to necessarily do it with their wisdom. The youth, they have the energy and the passion, but they need guidance, you know. It's exchanges, it's relationships, and I can tell that each and every person here is feeling and receiving what they need, not what they want. The Rolling Stones like, you can't always get, you know. So it's good that everyone's getting what they need. And I feel really honored to be a speaker. Like, I just spoke after Her Royal Highness. I was like, whoa, that's intense, you know? So I'm like super humbled that I'm able to even share a stage and have something to share that's of value, you know? Which also means to me that I can be thankful for my life and the way that my life has led me. So this Spirit Fest is really helping to orient people to the depth of ancestry, how they want to live their life so that their descendants can have a good life. It's rerouting people in time and space, which I think is really important because that's spirit, right? So these things about Spirit Fest are really beautiful. I don't like to sit for very long periods of time. So I'm like moving around, I go eat a sweet potato, I go have water, I have a coffee, I go here. Not that the talks aren't engaging, but I think there might be a way to make it a little bit more movement oriented. And I know they have the Aina Volunteer Day tomorrow, and I'm really excited for that. Because it's like, you know, chop wood, carry water, you know? Like they say, everyone wants to do ayahuasca, no one wants to do the dishes. So how do you engage with the spirit and have this inspiration and go and plant things? Go and dig in the earth. Go and get your hands earthy. As my uncle says, you didn't just get dirty, you got earthy, you know? So I'm really excited about that volunteer day, and I'm glad that that's at the tail end of this experience to allow people to approach our Mother Earth with a different lens. And I think it's just only going to grow. This experience is only going to grow. I can feel that this is the last time this is in the room. I felt that. Because Aloha is powerful. And like I mentioned before, we're being worked by Aloha. So that's limitless. Like Kumu says, can there be scarcity when you're connected with Source? No. Can there be scarcity when you're connected with Aloha? No. Same principle, right? So I'm excited to see where this will go and where it will travel and how I can become an ambassador of Aloha in the world too.